I want to give you an introduction to moulding planes, and the reason I'm hesitating to start this is because it really is such a vast subject that I can't do it in the time that I want to give to this. But what I want to do is just encourage you that if you are interested in putting mouldings on your work, moulding planes may well be the way you want to go. Every mould that's available in the classic range of moulding bits or round over bits that you would use on a what has now become the conventional machine router or moulder, you can actually get a dedicated moulding plane to do that, like these. This is what a moulding plane looks like, and they come in about 300-400 different shapes. So if you wanted to start collecting them, as I have through the years, then you will end up with a wonderful collection of wonderful planes that came in mid-1700s, early 1700s, and went all the way through to the late or mid-1900s. And they gradually, they actually rapidly diminished off because nobody was using them, because the power router came in, and that meant you could have one machine that you loaded the different bits in, and you could buy 200 or 300 profiles in mouldings for your router. So, but we're not looking at that. We're not interested in the router, and I'm not really all that interested in mouldings. But occasionally we do need a moulding. We want to trim out something. We want to make a piece of moulding for a skirting, a base trim in a house or something like that, that may have gone out of fashion and you might not be able to get it. So you could make one by using a combination of moulding planes or a single moulding plane altogether. This is an incredible book. This was written by William Goodman, and it's a book about the development of the moulding plane, and it gives you profiles, it gives you the history, it gives you the relationships between men and women in that period when moulding planes, so this goes from 1700, when moulding planes came into their peak, really over a period of about 100 years. And I think you'd love this book. Actually, it's out of print, so you'll have to pay a premium for it if you look for it. So let me see if I can divide this up for you, because there are complex moulding planes, very complex moulding planes. You get some moulding planes like these, and you'll recognize the reverse of these if you are thinking about your router cutters that you put in your power router. You'll see the reverse of these. There'll be different profiles, a wide range of profiles. Some have a quirk in them, some have a combination of molds that you have, and these are adjustable by hammer. You tap the wedge, you tap the heel of the plane, things like that. I'll try and give you a little bit of an example of that soon. So those are the complex moulding planes. Then you have the simple moulding planes like these. And imagine this, if you bought a set of hollows and rounds, these are called hollows, and one is hollow and this one creates a hollow. So this is in the UK, it's the opposite to America. I think I'm right. Americans would call this a opposite to mine. So in this case, I would call this a hollow and this a round, because it's what it creates. So you take these and you start working these boom, boom, boom along the grain of the wood, and you end up with a hollow or a round, depending on which one you use. Now then you need planes that take you into a more complex region like this one. And let me just run this for you. This is what we call running or sticking the mold. So I've picked some straight grained pine. Why did I do that? Because that's what was always done. You picked your material. It could be pine. If pieces were made for below stairs in the wealthy homes, then they would have pine. If they were above the stairs, they would be working with walnut, hardwoods, oak, things like that, mahoganies. So this is an amazing plane. Now try and imagine that this plane was made in the mid-1700s. Okay, so the mid-1700s. And look at that. Look what we got. We got this wonderful crisp mould on there. And do I look like I'm out of breath? Not really. Now, if I did this in oak, it would work just as well. I'd just have to use more effort because I would get more resistance. But this worked perfectly. Now try and imagine this. If I took this moulding plane and put it alongside this one, you can see how much this profile has been worn down. It would have been that wide. How do I know this was made in the 1700s? Because it's longer than these that were made in the 1800s. They were longer. There's another thing you might not know, but this was rounded in the 1700s. I'm going roughly on this, and this one had this kind of ellipse on it, more elliptical shape. So that was the reason that I could tell. As you get to more modern ones, you'll find it more exaggerated. These are your adjusters. So you take a hammer. This is how we adjust them. You hit the heel with a hammer, hit it square on, try not to damage the end grain, there, and then take the Warrington part of the hammer and tap here, and that removes the wedge or loosens the wedge. Now while that's loose, I can then tap this and tap the wedge. I've tightened the wedge now. So I eyeball, look for the depth of cut. There's my depth of cut. So this is what we call a skew-mouthed rebate plane, and we would use this for creating a rebate. So if I took this molded section here and I wanted to make a rebate on this side, I could simply take a stick of wood like this, put a couple of nails in it, and this was very typical. You take this, drive that nail on there at the distance you want from the edge of the wood, and then make it parallel, if you want it parallel, of course. Tap this. That would go along the length of the wood. Now I would then probably clamp this to the bench top here, so I'll do that. I just want to show you that these are so incredibly versatile. So you run this here. Hopefully my clamp won't be in the way, but it probably will. Another one at this end. Go ahead and clamp it. That's got to be better than that. They're an incredible tool, moulding planes, and the variations on it. So this is technically a moulding plane, but why would we use it? I'll explain that in a minute. So I would start here at the nose. Can I move this so that you don't have it? Let me see. If I shift that, whether I can still work safely. Not really. Let me think this through. I know. This will do it, I think. This just get it out of the way so you can see what's happened. Nope, still can't see. Sorry. There we go. I think that will work better. I thought I'd work this out. Okay. So you just run this, start at the nose here, and work back. So no matter how long your stick was, and you don't have to use nails, you can just clamp those on there if you want to. Once you've gone in, you can pop this off, like that. And you've got the stop there to work to. So you can now work to that edge and keep working back. So we've got the rebate we want. That rebate might be for the glass. It could be for a panel to go in a door. Once you've gone in this direction, I'll just tell you that there is a very fuzzy edge on there because it's only cutting on one face. So this fuzzy edge here is not really cut in the same way. If I were to put this in the vise like this, I'm going to do it from this side so you can see. I would just take a shaving off there and I've got crisp, beautiful edge. I might go in again here and just take that iris off that corner. So that gives me a step down in the surface. I've got a mould on here. There are a variety of things that we can do. So you've got moulding planes. You've got hundreds of moulding planes to collect. You can go in that direction. There's a couple of planes here that I should show you while we're here. These planes are not moulding planes either. These are planes that we use for a tongue and a groove. So one cuts the tongue, one cuts the groove. This one's cutting the groove. If I want to, I can take this plane and just run it along here. Now this one, that was pretty aggressive, and I'm also going against the grain. So I would definitely turn this around and work with the grain if I can, but I've got a knot here. Again, I might have a problem. But what else have I got wrong? It's too heavy a set. So I can tap here, or I can tap here. Once I do that, that means the wedge is loose, and so is the blade. So I pull this up with my fingertips. I get it to where it's almost level or even withdrawn from the surface of the wood. And then I tap the wedge. Now that will move the blade forward. And then I start tapping that top of the blade here until the blade is just protruding past the surface of the sole. Now, which is the surface of the sole? I think I've got too heavy a cut there again. Let me try. No, that's fine. So again, I start at the nose and I work back. And I keep going because it automatically stops when it gets to the bottom inside the groove. That's where it stops. It can't go past that. That will be the extent of the tongue that I've created. So not good to stop midway because you get a flow. But that's fine. So I keep going down here till it stops. You hear it stop. And there is your tongue. Now often they are offset, not in the center, because if this was a floorboard, the top surface would be thicker before you get the floorboard wearing down to the tongue. So we register against that face like I did then, flip over, and we take the other plane. This one's going to cut the groove, starting at the nose, working back until we've got that groove established there, like that. So we've got the groove going. Make sure you don't get bits of wood in between there. So it stopped, automatically stopped. So you can buy these. This is a very small one. This is only about 3 millimeters wide. So it's a very small, thin piece of work that I'm making. So I've got my tongue here. I've got my groove on this side. Let's cut this in two and offer one to the other and see how good it was. Now then, remember, you can get these up to about an inch, for an inch thick piece of wood. And being the case, sorry about that roughness then, but it'll give me exactly what I want, so get rid of that. So there is my tongue and groove going together like that. So I've got this ready to go. And you can do this with any moulding, with any of these planes. You can collect those extra widths. You can go 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch pieces of wood, 1/2 inch pieces of wood, 5/8, 3/4, and they aren't necessary past that. So that's another pair of moulding planes. And you can buy about 6 or 7 different sizes of those, so that will give you an idea. Okay, what else can we do with moulding planes? Just to bring in another piece of wood. By now I hope you're realizing just how much these planes have to offer. What we've got here, hollows and rounds. I liked the idea of this one. Let me show you an adaptation of one. This one here. I've got this piece of wood. I don't know if you've ever seen a base trim like this. I might actually change the piece of wood like this, where you have just a round over on the bottom that makes a skirting board or something like that. Would I use any of this wood? This has got knots in it. It's not going to work. This one is fairly straight grained and I believe it'll work. So put this in the vise and work this way. So I'm not taking much off, so this is how I set it. Tap here, and then tap here. That sets the wedge and moves the blade forward. Why did I do that? Because the blade, the cutting iron, is wider at the base than it is at the top. So when you tap it, it loosens everything. So you want to retighten everything. So now, I started at the nose work back. Little vibration in there, not bothering me. So I'm getting a profile on here. Now I kept this at a rigid angle, but now I'm moving over onto the top. I move down the face, I move down, keep moving down. And I have something of a quadrant shape there. So that is my mould done. Now imagine what we might want to do with this now, and this is what we did with a lot of moulds. Where's my pencil gone? Okay, this is what we do with a lot of moulds. If I wanted to, I could rip this off. If I wanted to, I could rip this off here. And if I did that, let me go ahead and show you. I would rip this down here. So now I've got a trim mould, haven't I? If I take this and cross-cut this, but let me do something before I cross-cut it. Let me take this saw here. Let me put this on here. Oops. Like that. And take this saw this way. Ooh, that broke on that corner. I'll go a little bit further down. Like this. And then here. And this will give you some idea of what we did with our moulding planes. There, we made a mould, and then we can nail that to an internal corner. So if I took this like this, and this like this, put this here. This is the internal corner of a cabinet or something like that. I get this corner, I've got that inset piece, I can put glass inside there, I can use it for a whole wide variety of things. So that will give you some introduction to moulding planes. You can go out and collect them, you can restore them, they're a wonderful part of woodworking and they've been around for well over 300-400 years. So enjoy it. I hope this has helped you to see where you can replace machines just by introducing some moulding planes, and it's very pleasant to do.